I'm just waiting for John to be logged in. Okay, we'll now start the meeting. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 38, paragraphs 18 through 25, as amended by Chapter 28 of the Act of 2009, the Wetlands Protection Act, and to the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaw of July 1986 and its regulations of January 2000, the Wellfleet Conservation Commission will hold public hearings on Wednesday, February 16th, 2022 at 5 p.m. via Zoom. What we're doing now is the business meeting. And currently we have Marty Murphy, John Kumbler, Michael Fisher, and myself, Leon Shree. So we have a quorum. Is Hillary going to join us, Chris?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is Hillary going to join us this evening?
I thought so, yeah.
Okay, because basically we only have mail and jurisdictional opinions to go over. And we don't have any meeting minutes this time, just due to delays. So we'll get those.
Well, on that topic of the minutes, so I have been editing and sending it to Barbara, but since she's not going to be here for a while, would either Marty or John want to double check my edits?
I'll go through them. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. You can send them to me, but we can still, yes, that's because, yes. Yep, just send them to me. I'll check it out. You're going to send a docx?
Yes, exactly. And then if you send it back with track changes, I'll make the corrections and circulate it to everybody like the Sunday before the meeting.
Okay, easy done.
Here comes Ben.
Well, this is the point in the meeting when I'd say, was there any mail? And Hillary would say, no, there's no mail. And then I'd say, are there any jurisdictional opinions, which we oftentimes have. Very interesting.
Well, there was one jurisdictional opinion that it's a place on Bayberry right next to the house that we've been talking about, the Kleeman house. And it's a tree down. It's the Conservation Trust has a conservation restriction on the land. And Meredith was asking, is it all right for Conscom to approve this? So I don't know how far it got, but that's up in the air.
Yeah, well, without something. Okay, that's on Bayberry, you said?
Yeah, it's 170 Bayberry. It's a
Is that right by
lot.
that new house that's going to go in?
Exactly, just adjacent to it.
Okay. Did it fall on the road or is it just in the?
No, but the people across the way, Cochran's who own it, say that people go and walk out there and look at the marsh and they don't want it to fall on somebody's head. But they're going to cut it down and leave the pieces there.
Oh, okay.
So that was the proposal.
Okay, well, we can certainly vote on that when we have something official to vote on, I suppose. And okay. So I guess essentially we don't have anything else. Oh, Hillary's coming. Here she comes. Good. It's kind of a hollow business meeting without knowing about jurisdictional opinions. Hillary, are you with us?
He's on mute right now.
Sorry, I am. I was just
There
finishing
she
up a Herring River call that went a little too long. I'm sorry.
No problem. Did we get any mail in the last 2 weeks?
Did you get any mail? No, no mail to note.
And we talked, do we have something official as far as jurisdictional opinions?
Why, yes, we have two jurisdictional opinions. One, Michael Fisher, did you get the correspondence from Meredith on the one where the tree appears to be on Conservation Trust property, but there's a piece overhanging private property?
Yes, I got the email because it's a new conservation restriction. I don't have the paperwork that says what they can do. But
Okay.
it seemed reasonable that they're gonna take it down and just leave the pieces there, so I didn't
Yep.
see any problem.
Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and present that one first to you. This is for John Grebe and Teresa Corcoran at 180 Bayberry Lane. At 41 parcel 122. And the proposal consists of 180 Bayberry Lane as a privately owned parcel that has a conservation restriction. A large pine was toppled during the last October nor'easter, coming to rest in the top of a nearby tree. Many walkers access the property to view the marsh, and we are concerned for their safety. We would ask that we be allowed to disentangle the broken parts of the tree, leaving them on the ground. We would also leave the trunk in place. So that's the proposal. Meredith was out there. It looks reasonable. It's definitely in a precarious position. And we certainly wouldn't want it to fall on any walkers.
So they're basically going to cut it down so it's no longer a snag, is that?
They're gonna cut down the part that's overhanging, yeah. It's
Okay.
tangled up, and then there's
Mhm.
like 3 limbs that are going off in that direction.
And I must say that the Clover Trail and the Corcoran people, they've been very good about conservation things, so I would give them a lot of credence.
And I'm glad they reached out, so, you know, there's that too.
On the other hand, I think I should recuse because it's Conservation Trust land.
That's fine.
Yep.
So that's the proposal.
I move that we accept this proposal.
I second it.
All right, Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Michael?
Recuse.
Oh, that's right. That's, well, we have to get that down in the vote, right? Marty?
Yes.
I vote yes. And John?
Yes.
All right, so that one's approved.
Okay, and it's
That's
Tuesday.
number 2.
22. All right. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I'm just gonna
Haley's
read.
been out on her feet. She's feeling good.
Me? No, I had to go to a finance meeting. It really like dulled my spirit.
What a buzzkill.
It dulled my spirits. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1. Okay, the next one is for 194 Old Wharf Road for Wata Olson and Arlene Esty. And they are proposing to remove 2 trees, both pines. Tree number 1 is at the rear of the house, close to the 3-season porch. It is completely dead and could fall on the house at any time. Tree number 2 is near the front door. Half of the top of the tree fell during a winter storm, and the remainder has almost no canopy and crowds a larger oak tree. So this is for the removal of 2 pine trees.
Have you or Meredith seen this place?
Yes, Meredith was out at it as well. It's a reasonable request.
Okay, should we ask them to, I mean, is it a heavily wooded area or is it sparsely
So
wooded area?
one of the trees is crowding out some oak trees, so I don't think we need to plant anything there.
Right.
And the other one is so close to the porch. I mean, we could ask them to plant some small growing shrubs.
Okay. That doesn't seem fair for a dead tree that's right next to the house personally. I mean, I just wish I knew, does the area need that replacement? I mean, that tree's been dead for a while, I guess. And the other one's soon to die.
Yeah, and yeah.
I think we should just approve the removal of those 2 trees for safety.
Second, Michael?
Marty?
Yes.
I vote yes. John?
Yes.
Benjamin?
Yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
Okay,
I am gonna ask them to plant some shrubs because it looks like they could have some native vegetation in between the marsh and the porch. So we can,
that works for me.
okay,
Is everyone on the commission okay with that?
Yes, good
Yes.
idea.
Okay,
okay. And that is all the jurisdictional opinions we have today.
good. And from a meeting minute standpoint, we'll catch last meeting's minutes next week or next time.
Yeah, I just got them and I edited them, but I want to go over it one more time before I send it to you, Leon.
Okay, yeah, we'll just catch them next time. Does anybody else have anything to talk about? How about our visit to the beach this morning? Is that anything we want to discuss at all, or?
We can talk about that. Yes, sure. I asked Greg to put together for us, just a little factual sheet on what we observed. Ben, we went out this morning to 1440 Chiquesset Neck Road, just to see how the fiber rolls and the plantings were holding up and what was going on the ends of each after the 2 recent storms that we had. And what we observed was that there is some end scour occurring, but most notably, the bank is retreating on both sides, creating sort of this like island effect, like we had talked about happening. I think we talked about it more so happening with the rock structure than the fiber rolls, but it seems to be having the same effect. The fiber rolls were really hardened, and so they felt frozen. So I think that they're deflecting the waves in a similar way that a revetment would at this point, just because of the weather. So they're going to have to undergo some renovations out there and some tidying up of the site. And to the north, thank you, John Kumbler, the erosion is more severe than to the south. And at the north, it looks like that sort of like lighthouse type of structure is in jeopardy. And it looks like the hot tub is hanging over. So a few more storms and high tide cycles, and I'm not sure what we'll be looking at. So Greg is gonna draft us up, just factual based on what he saw. So once we get that report, I will share that. We also took him with us to the 2 projects tonight, Mordecai and Prager, because those are also coastal structures. And I think he said that he could weigh in on those for us and review them for us too. So
So is he
out
going to
of
be here
convenience,
tonight
we
for that?
took him with us. He's not going to come to the meeting tonight, but he'll issue us something in writing. So
But if we vote on it tonight, we won't have the benefit.
I guess I just didn't think that you would vote on it. I felt like there would still be some outstanding questions. I mean, we never seem to vote on coastal structure the same night it's presented because we tend to stew over it, and there'll be more questions following the presentation. I could be wrong. If you're comfortable voting on it, by all means, let's vote on it. So just
Yeah,
know that
I
Greg
think
was
so.
with us.
Well, Barbara has a lot of skin in that game because of the Turtle Beach there.
Yeah.
So it probably wouldn't be good to vote on that unless she's.
Barbara
involved.
said she was going to join us at 5, provided she could. So
All right.
Leon,
Yes, sir.
can we go back to the Blash House for a minute? I think the point that Hillary made, I think we need to think about. And it was certainly predictable, and we talked about it way back when this was first presented. Soft solutions sound good, but it's not changing the basic dynamic that's going on that shorefront, which is the retreat of the shoreline. And the soft solution may protect the area immediately behind the soft solution as a rock revetment would, but it's not going to stop the problem of the whole bank retreating. And I think we should keep that in mind whenever we see these soft solutions. They may not have as egregious a scouring effect on either side, but they're not going to change the basic dynamic of the retreat of the bank. That house
Right.
is going to be an island in a very short period of time, no matter what they do,
Mhm.
or they'll have to move it, but
well, and it also begs the question, do we need some type of redesign of a structure like that once the sides start going and it's completely retreated? There's nothing sort of protecting the water from continuing to get back there. So
I mean, like that house that we saw I forget where it was, Delaware or something, where it was sitting out on a lot
Yes.
that was surrounded by rock revetments. I mean,
Yes.
that's kind of a slash and burn approach, I think.
And we haven't met the new owner yet, so maybe a letter. I'm not sure where to go. I was gonna wait for Greg Berman's report and then maybe put a call into Seth and ask what the repair plan is, or
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's certainly concern. And since they aren't living there.
well, there's absolute concern because one more storm and that whole north side could fall.
Right.
Yeah, I
And
don't
they've
know.
not been good about, well, the old owners were not particularly forthcoming about removing things that were falling onto the beach.
I know, and I'm exactly, and I'm worried about the corner on the north there. It's close.
Yeah. I
So,
wouldn't want to walk around the property.
so there's that. The other thing, while we're talking about erosion, I issued 3 emergency certifications last week. One, let me just get my notes out here so I can tell you. I think I copied an email to you.
Yes, we saw them, I think.
Mhm.
Okay. So we issued 3 emergency certifications. Cliff Road is about to be a road no more. And I've been working closely with Bob Berenger this week on his septic solution because his leach field practically went over and he removed it before it went over. So he still has the house that we just permitted him to move back with a decking system, but he currently has no septic system. So we are working through that. He may come back for approval for a tight tank because I told him I was rather uncomfortable with the thought of digging anything into that coastal bank at this time. I think especially once we pull Melinda Crasting's deck, I'm worried about further destabilization because Melinda Crasting also has an old septic tank lodged in there that's I think that whole area is gonna be impacted. So, so we're closely monitoring all of those jobs at the same time.
They must be coming in hot and heavy right now.
Well, I think it's actually just the 1, 2, 3, just the 5 properties.
That's 5. That's not few.
Well,
In the
and
future,
I
it may
guess
be
the good
35.
news is that we've kind of like been, I don't want to say this, I'm not even going to say it. I'm just going to think it to myself and maybe I'll tell you guys when I see you. But it's been kind of quiet about it. So it's good.
So Hillary, has Barringer gotten the okay? We said okay a while ago, but he was
Yes, we
being
told-
held up
yes.
by ZBA, was it?
He got the permission from CBA. The house is moved.
Oh, the house is moved.
The house is
Okay.
completely moved, but if you
He's got
stand
the
out there,
septic.
John, you would be like, oh my God, they lost 15 feet in the last storm. So like what seemed okay when we permitted it, we would never permit that standing there right now. So I think we need to wrap our minds around like a better system because one storm can take out so many feet that like this house now looks questionable. Like,
Wow,
and
after he just moved it.
It's not even done being moved. Like they're still hammering away on the deck and you're like, why are you bothering?
And I just read in Science News, I think, that, this is no news to everyone here, but we're not just talking about, sea level rising, but added humidity in the atmosphere is going to increase the intensity of these storms. That's an absolute guarantee. So we're going to lose much more in the future. We can't assume that what happened in the past 20 years is going to be projected forward in the next 20 years.
A great deal of climatology is no longer valid.
Right. So we've got issues. Needless to say, we've got issues. We have 2 roads that are going to be developed, I think Alden and North Circuit, to accommodate for the loss of Cliff Road. Apparently there's a place along Ocean View Drive, that's also questionable. And while we're talking about climate change, we have low-lying roads being worked on by two separate consultants on two different projects. So we've got East Commercial and Kendrick being worked on under an MVP grant. And then we have Indian Neck and a couple low-lying offshoots there being worked on under our CZM grant. So we make some small strides daily.
You have a lot of irons in the fire.
More than I'd like, but yes.
Okay, what time is it? If nobody has anything else to discuss, I move that we adjourn the business meeting and reconvene at 5 o'clock.
Second, Michael.
Oh, wait, one thing quick before we go. We had a bit of misadvertising on the agenda, just so you're aware. So the Williams hearing, the certificate of compliance, we're not going to be hearing tonight. And the two town of Wellfleet cases have been continued to March 2nd.
Okay, so do we need to vote on those or?
Not right now, once we open it, I just
No,
wanted
but
to
I mean,
know before we,
all three of these need to be
Yep.
continued and voted.
exactly.
Okay,
Great.
I think we can do that.
Awesome.
All right, we'll see you at 5 o'clock. Oh, wait a minute, we haven't voted. Marty, do you want to go
Yeah.
from the break? Okay, I would
Yes.
like, yes, I vote yes. John,
Yes.
Benjamin,
Yes.
and see Mike.
Yes.
All right. I'll see you all at 5 o'clock.
Barbara, it was sunny here too today.
Pardon me, Mike?
It was
Hello.
sunny here too today.
Oh,
Not just
sunny-
Barbara.
sunny here, but not 80.
You're here but not attending.
How was How was your business meeting? Okay?
Yeah, fine. Yeah,
Okay.
pretty low key. We
Okay.
got out, we're done in 20 minutes, so it
Okay, all right.
was a good meeting. We went out looking at erosion damages this morning quite a bit.
Okay,
It
That's
was,
your question next. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
okay.
glad you're here because I'm sure you're going to want to talk about the Prager and Mordecai since they're right next to the Turtle Beach.
Right.
Looks sunny and warm where you are, Barbara.
Oh, we just got out of the water. It's very nice here.
Oh, good. Okay, we've been in the negatives here, so don't rub it in.
You're all invited, of course.
I didn't get the formal invite.
Dibs on the couch. A minute to go.
And Barbara, just so you know, our meeting has been shortened. We're not going to be hearing the town of Wellfleet or Williams.
Right, I got those emails from Chris. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, I will begin the meeting. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 38, paragraphs 18 through 25, as amended by Chapter 28 of the Acts of 2009, the Wetlands Protection Act, and to the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaws of July 1986 and its regulations of January 2000. The Wellfleet Conservation Commission will hold public hearings on Wednesday, February 16th, 2022 at 5 p.m. via Zoom. Currently in attendance, we have Marty Murphy, Barbara
Yes.
Brennisell, and Mike Fisher, and I guess Ben is not back yet, nor is John, but we have a quorum. And now Ben is here, and John will be joining us shortly. First order of business is that we need to, we have three items that are going to be continued until March, was it 2nd?
Yes.
March 2nd. So the first is Town of Wellfleet, 140 Schoolhouse Road, map 9, parcel 637. That's Gull Pond Road. Remove stairs, stabilize bank, and revegetate. I move that we continue this until March 2nd.
Second, Michael.
Marty, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. Barbara, how do you
Yes,
vote?
yes.
Benjamin? Benjamin, your microphone's not working, Ben, but I'm seeing an affirmative thumbs up.
There we go.
Okay. And John, how do you vote? Okay. Okay, we have and Mike, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, and I moved for the next one, the town of Wellfleet, 505 Long Pond Road, Long Pond Public Landing, map 16, parcels 655 and 650. It's an RDA to remove stairs, stabilize bank, and revegetate. I move that we continue this until the March 2nd meeting.
Second, Michael?
Okay, Marty? How do
yes,
you vote? I vote yes. Barbara?
Yes,
Benjamin?
Yes.
John?
Yes,
And Michael?
Yes.
Okay. And finally, Williams, 64 Gull Pond Road, map 8, parcel 25, NOI, install gravel driveways and drainage trenches, request for certificate of compliance. We're going to continue that until the March 2nd. I move that we move that or continue that to the March 2nd meeting.
second,
Okay, Marty, how do you vote?
yes,
Leon votes yes. Barbara?
yes,
Benjamin?
Yes.
John?
yes.
And Michael?
Yes.
Okay, for those pieces of business out of the way, we move on to Coates 10 First Avenue, map 30, parcel 120, RDA, add a studio above a garage. We visited that site 2 weeks ago, and it was continued from that meeting. Is there anyone here to represent that?
Ron.
Ron, Ron, you're muted.
How's that?
That's much better.
My name is Ron Slowick. I'm employed by Russell Perry, Highland Builders, and I'm here representing the owners tonight on this proposed project.
Okay.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to do a screen share.
I think that's perfectly okay. I don't know administratively if anybody has to okay that, but
No, I think he can just go ahead and do it.
yes, go ahead and do it.
This is the site. This is the area we're talking about right here. Let me, that's the whole site there, but we're focusing on this corner here.
Mhm.
It's an existing garage, and we're proposing to do a studio above.
All right.
In the front here is an existing driveway, concrete apron, and that would be our staging area. And the storage would actually be in the garage. All material would be in the garage. So we're not really disturbing anything around here. To the side, we have a proposed addition, which is a 10 by 22. Zoom in here a little bit more. If you can see, the standard approach wouldn't work. Bringing in machinery, digging trenches, piles of dirt. So what we looked at doing is we can actually build this right off the existing elevation with framing lumber and actually not touching any of the ground area here. The addition would be placed on piers. And sticking out of the ground, you would have 4 of them, 4 10-inch piers. We would do a 12-inch straw wattle here. And then the ground cover, as you are at the site, it's all pines and thick with pine needles. We'd actually take those pine needles, set them aside, and use the same ground cover, pine needles. No machinery is proposed on this project. No grade changes. No fill being added. No fill being removed. One of the benefits to doing the pier pad system is that once the pier is dug and set, we can backfill at the same time. So there's no piles of dirt on the site whatsoever.
So is this addition going to be elevated or is it 2 stories?
There is an addition above the garage.
Right.
And actually, I can actually show you an elevation of it if you'd like.
Yes, I think that would be good.
Okay.
Before he leaves, this is between the 50 and 100? Is that,
There's the 100.
Yes, I'm sorry. This red line here,
is
Yeah.
the,
that's the 50.
okay, great, all right. thank you.
There's absolutely no work in the 50 at all. It
Okay,
actually starts about, the existing garage starts about 70 feet out and continues almost to the 100 foot.
thank you.
You can see the existing driveway here,
Yes.
walkway.
Mhm.
And then right here, there's a concrete apron. And then as you were at the site, you saw the railroad timbers there. And that area is 17 by 17, which is a disturbed area anyway. So the area that's not natural there now is about 125 square feet. So you look at the addition, I'm just running the math, by itself is 220 square feet, but you back out the existing what's there, and you end up with a net increase of 95 square feet. And again, this is not a slab on grade. This is raised off this is not even touching the ground. So we're not disturbing any of the ground in this area. It is covered by the addition, but we're not digging, excavating anything here. There'll be a bottom on it. And then what we propose to do is no crushed stone. We'll use the pine needles, the thick pine needles, to cover this whole area back in. The one thing we will do that is not there now is a dewatering system. There will be gutters and downspouts. And then what we'll do is the dry wells will be placed out in this area here, not back here. The site, it will need water, and we're pretty sure it's going to need electrical line. And if you look, here's the 50-foot buffer again. We plan on going from this location here to the existing house in this back corner. And again, this is all parking area existing now. I mean, you've been there and parked. So as far as storing materials and whatnot, we're not touching any of this area here. It's all right here in the driveway, and the materials are inside the garage.
What about, are you going to have drains in there, sewage?
There is an existing, yes. We will have to go from the garage to the septic system.
Okay. And where's that?
You can,
Oh, I see, right.
yeah, right here. So we would be going from here to this area over here.
Mhm.
So there's going to be something in the garage that needs to have water and drainage?
Below on the garage itself, they're still using this to park a garage, or excuse me, park their car in storage area. Above, in this corner here, there's a stairway, and that's where his studio is.
Okay, I assume that the septic system can handle this extra living space.
The answer to that is yes. Russell Perry talked to the Board of Health, and the capacity exists to do this. Yes.
Leon, can I make two interjections?
Please do.
Okay, number one, the Coates people have been very good about informing me. I'm the supervisor for the NOI, which is a lot of cutting, and they've told me before every step, so that's very good.
Yep.
But I have a question. Under the extension in the area that you say is going to have pine needles, there's
Yep.
not going to be any storage under there at all for
Yep.
bicycles or anything?
Under this area,
Yeah,
no, this is still low to the ground. I would say the clearance, by the time, we have to do some things in reverse here, putting up the bottom first and then actually putting in the insulation. But you aren't gonna have more than 3 or 4 inches. If you look at the elevation here, you can see it 35.4. And you look out in this area, you can see it 34.4. So we have just enough room to do what we need to do and not touch anything. So you're only going to have 3 or 4 inches underneath this addition. And again, the way the grade is, we have to excavate for 4 piers. We don't have to change any of the grades here at all.
and how much,
Do you, Ron, have a rendering of what this is proposed to look like?
The addition?
Yes.
Sure, I can pull that up.
Awesome.
I have 2 views I can show you.
Great.
Okay.
Might be helpful in furthering.
Oh,
our
sure,
understanding.
sure. Down below, this is the existing garage now.
no, we're not seeing
We're
it.
not saying it.
Oh, really? Uh-oh.
We're still seeing your plan.
I think you probably selected the window you wanted to.
Let me, how about now?
No,
Same.
Huh. Oops,
you might
switch.
close down the plan window and then open up the other one.
Yeah.
How's that?
We're still seeing the plan.
Plan.
So all you're seeing is the site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
All right. Huh. I'm hitting resume share, nothing's all right, I'm gonna,
I would close that window.
Or stop sharing and then share another document.
Yeah.
okay, I'll try that.
Now we're in San Francisco.
And I'm
Don't we
I'm on
wish?
There we
That's
go.
good.
Okay, perfect. Below you see the existing garage. In fact, the addition that's even going above, those 2 garage doors are going to stay. So here's the story above. And the area that they can stay in actually is over in this area. And this is the proposed addition right here.
And what's that going to be used for?
Her studio.
So the upstairs is going to be used for.
His work area.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We're seeing this more and more now. This is about the 6th or 7th one. We have more this year and even more next year. You know, it's with COVID, everybody's working remotely now. And I've done it to my own house. My wife started out on the kitchen table. And finally, we did a little addition so that she can work away from the household.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
you know, originally when I looked at this, if you went at this, the standard cookie cutter approach, you dig a trench 4 feet wide, 4 feet deep, we'd have piles of dirt just sitting there for at least 2 weeks. But looking at the alternatives and trying to minimize the impact to the area, and yes, we're in a sensitive area, but we do this on all our projects. We look at this way on all our projects. I really think the minimum, the impact is, I'm not saying none, but minimal.
What do you have? Are you going to have a dumpster there or what for your detritus?
We are going to have one dumpster that will be parked right in the driveway and apron area, because this whole roof section has to come off. Once that's gone, and again, it's just the way we operate. At the end of every night, the work site is cleaned up, neat. We will probably use one of our dump trailers to come and take the trash away, because that's the bulk of it right there. The rest will be pieces of 2x4, pieces of plywood, a shingle. And then what we'll do is we usually will take that debris, and even that, until the trailer comes, will be stored in the garage area.
Have you evaluated the framing on the first floor to see if it's appropriate for a second story? We've had some problems in the past where it was discovered later that.
Yes, this is a monopore. It's concrete.
So for the foundation, what about
Yes.
all the walls and everything are fine with it?
Yeah, it's all poured concrete. It's a monopore.
Okay, John, do you have something?
Yeah, there's a couple things. Effectively, they may say it's a studio, he's adding a living space up there. The addition to, and the second story addition, that is a living space, but that's not going to have any significant impact on the vegetation, although it will have an impact adding a living space up there. The addition to the side, this is within the 100-foot, we're adding an addition to the side. I want to see something back to say, okay, for that addition. And what I would ask is they replace their septic system with an innovative alternative septic system that would give us something to protect the environment, to make up for the fact that they're adding this extra addition to the side. So for my vote, I want to see something back. What I'd like to see back is the new septic system. If they can't do that, I certainly want to hear what they have to say to justify saying, okay, within the 100 of this extra addition that they're putting on.
Does anybody else on the commission have any questions or statements, observations?
I agree with John. And I would also like to see, because I don't have the paperwork, it might be on your paperwork. This is Barbara speaking, by the way. How much disturbance is within the 50 and between the 50 and 100, and how this adds to that, the total amounts. It may be on your plans, but I don't have the plans in front of me. But I agree with John about the alternative system, because once you have studios and workspaces, they tend to be lived in, people tend to use them. There's going to be more use on the septic system. So I agree with John about that.
Yeah, I don't see, I'm looking at the official plat right now. And I don't think I'm seeing the disturbance. Let's see here.
We have the original plan for the initial work. I will check that. Just give me a
No,
moment.
we do. I take it back. We have figures for the 0 to 50 and the 50 to 100 coverage tables. It's really small, though, even with my readers on, I'm having trouble with it.
I have those numbers, Mr. Chairman.
All right, could you read them to us, please?
Sure.
First, the areas of disturbance, let's make sure that we're on the same page, would include driveways, planter beds, etc., right?
Right.
Okay.
The bottom line is there's an increase of 95 square feet. It's going from the existing of 1,447 to 1,542.
And that's for the house and the garage, or yes?
That's for the project. It's for the addition. The garage is existing. This is 95 square feet is
Right, but the figure you just gave us of 1,400, that was the house and the garage?
that includes, yes, that's, yeah.
Okay.
That is there's numbers from 0 to 50, and I'm giving the number from 50 to 100, which is on the bottom
I see.
where it says the coverage table.
Right, so, okay. So if we wanted a total from everything within the 100, what would that be? I say that because I can't see the numbers, so.
The net, are you asking for the net increase?
I'm asking for what is the current total and what will be the total
Okay.
after the building?
The current total is 1,447 plus or minus. The proposed would bring it to 1,542.
But that's just the 50 to 100, right?
That's the 50 to 100. So
Right.
we're gonna want to add that
To the 0 to 50.
to
Because we're
the,
looking at, what we want is the total disturbance within 100 feet. Period.
so, right. So if you look at the 0 to 50, he has the buildings. He has
300.
deck and the hardscaping. And then I'm just looking at the bigger plan because this plan that was submitted is pretty much impossible to read as far as.
Yeah,
numbers go.
that's why I gave you the big one.
The 50 feet from the coastal bank has about half the house and the deck and the part of a walkway and a proposed addition and a screen porch. And then the 50 to 100 has a small portion of deck. It has the house, it has walkway, and then it has this garage. So and so if we add up the proposed changes on the original plan is 2,190 square feet and the 50 to 100, and we add up the 2,891 square feet in the 0 to 50. If I could find my calculator, we would have the existing disturbance, which is 2,891 plus 2,190. So existing, we have 5,081 square feet of disturbance, and he's proposing to add an additional
95.
Yes.
95 square feet for a total disturbance of 5,166 square feet in the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay, well, that's not allowed. We're over the, what
Right.
is allowable in the buffer zone.
So
Right.
can
22,000.
we give up some of the hardscaped area to accommodate for this addition?
That's the question.
Yeah,
Yep.
And there's also the issue of the septic.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
I suggest that this come back to us with that taken
Yeah.
care of.
Right.
Yeah.
do you feel that this is a fairly comprehensive list of the issues so that he's not going back and forth? I want to make sure that if he comes back here with a proposal that it meets what we asked him for this time, and that should be sufficient unless something is surfaces. But I would hope that we're talking about some hardscape issues coming back. Yeah, because there's quite a bit, and I wonder if it's really accounted for in your numbers with this circular driveway, I guess it is, around the patch there. There's a chunk of disturbed in there too.
Driveways are included.
Yeah, okay.
They should be, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, as they should be, yes.
Yeah, they're already
Okay.
included.
And
It looks like we have the shave 166 square feet off somewhere to make this an allowable application.
Is that how much it would take to get it under the,
5,000 is the
To
limit.
get it to 5,000.
Yeah,
Could someone explain the status of the addition to the main house, proposed addition?
that's on a previous application.
And that's been
Right.
approved.
and that's,
Yes,
is that accounted for in the
yes,
existing?
yes.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that since you are talking about exceeding our limit, the two areas that we're looking for some movement would be on upgrading the septic system to an IA system, which, since you're surrounded by the wetland, that would be a very good thing to do. And somehow limiting the hardscaping sufficiently, and it's not very much, it's only 160 feet. So that's a couple of 4x8 sheets.
Yep. And I can't answer those questions. That's for the
Right.
owners.
Right. So I move that we continue that with that input.
Before we finish
Okay.
this, Liam, I would like someone to check the last approval on the proposed addition to make sure that we're understand any qualifications, conditions were put on that.
So check the previous conditions.
Right, I want to make sure that there weren't things. I mean, one of the things that I worry about is that we get sort of, proposal A goes through, and then there's a proposal B later on, but if proposal A and B came to us at the same time, we might have not have said yes. So I just want to make sure that we look closely at proposal A before we okay proposal B. That's my
So
point.
that could be something for us to do.
Right.
Well,
So,
actually, if you, can I say, Leon?
Yeah.
There's in the March 17th, 2021 NOI that was approved, it's just pruning trees and mitigating with vegetation. There's nothing in that most recent NOI that about extending the house.
It's the
Wasn't there
extending of
the
the house.
addition, Michael, wasn't there the addition, that small addition in between the two
Oh,
buildings?
yeah.
It's not in the minutes. It could very well be, but it's not in the minutes.
I seem to remember that. Yeah, that the little corner in there that they were going to enclose and make into a entry hall, I think, or a
Yes.
mudroom, I guess.
Yeah, a mudroom.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I just want to make sure we're
Okay.
looking at the whole
All
picture.
right. So what we would like you to do, Ron, is talk to the owners, see what they want to come back to us to help us with this problem.
Sure.
And it's an
Yeah.
enhanced IA system we're interested in.
Yeah, not just a new Title V, because in the very near future, we're going to be on IA.
Yep. No, I get what you're saying. Usually, Mr. Chairman, committee members, I'm the guy that sits in the far back corner of the room, and I let others do the talking. I only talk when I need to.
That's a good plan. I wish I could do it.
It's worked for over 30 years successfully.
Yeah. Hey, don't mess with it. It works out.
No, I
Okay.
understand what you're asking.
All right. So, and we will review the currently active previous NOI.
Yes, I found one from August 2019, which is an addition of 240 square feet. This is for the entranceway. So I think it's going back to 2019 is the one that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
And that's that mudroom, right?
Oh, 717, 9, yeah.
Right.
So that has to be part of the calculation too.
That's
I think
on the
it is.
plan.
Okay.
Yes. It looks like they have a pretty, if I could read it, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with it, but it looks pretty comprehensive. And it seems as though Hillary could read it and actually.
I have a
calculate
large
the right
copy.
numbers.
I have the original plan.
big one,
big
right?
one. The
Yeah, I
big
actually gave her a larger plan because those smaller ones, they're very hard to read.
Yes, they are. Okay,
We want to
I
do it
think-
right. We want to do it right also, and
Oh,
we
you know
want,
what?
we want you to
I have a
understand what's
parcel.
going on here.
So I think we have a go forward plan. So at that point, I would like to continue this until the March 2nd meeting.
Second, Michael.
Okay, Marty, how do you vote?
Yes.
See, I vote yes. Benjamin, how do you vote?
Yes.
And John
Yes,
and Michael
and Barbara,
Yes.
and Barbara.
and
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes,
Okay, sorry. I'm looking at a little strip now and there's not everybody's on it. Sorry. And I'm getting old. Not forgetting.
that's all right.
Okay, so you're continued until March 2nd. We'll see you then.
Thank you. Good night, Mr. Chairman.
Good night. Good luck.
So how's Florida been, Barbara?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Mm,
It's just wonderful here, I have to say.
What part of Florida are you
We're on the Gulf Coast.
in? Okay.
We're between Venice and Naples in a very low-key community where we have this gigantic, gorgeous house. So come on down.
Okay. So next we have Prager, 376 and 400 King Philip Road, map 35, parcels 184 and 185, and NOI for a living shoreline and bank stabilization. We visited the site this morning, and I think Mark was there, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so we're all here again. There was some pretty significant erosion on the neighboring property, and it looks like quite a bit on the Prager property as well. Is everybody familiar with the proposal that they're doing? I guess what we'd like you to do, Mark, is go ahead and walk us through it.
Okay.
And let's see.
Could we open- I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, could we open both hearings at the same time? Because these are joint projects and we can talk.
I think we can talk about them at the same time, but we'll have to vote on them separately. Does that sound okay, Hillary?
Yep, that's perfect.
Yep, okay. So yes, we can. We can discuss them as if they were a conjoined at the hip type of project.
Okay, for the record, I'm Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting. I've been familiar with these properties for over 10 years, and I know some people on the board and Hillary have been familiar with the properties for probably over 20 years. A lot of things have been tried here between nourishment and back in, I think it was 2011, maybe, there were some fiber rolls that were tried. Those got wiped out pretty quickly.
Mhm.
So this is a joint project between two neighbors to arrest and control the erosion that's going on there now. And we had met prior, we had a previous meeting for the Mordecai property, and that got continued so that we could get the Pragers on board at the same time, which they are now. The only change that was made was that the project was phased on the Prager property. So the short story simply is that the living shoreline and the fiber rolls and the plantings and all of that, there's a phase one that goes relatively right to the Prager stairs that tapers off the living shoreline in front, then a little bit longer length of fiber rolls, and then the plantings behind and up the bank. And then phase two would extend the living shoreline about 30 feet. It would extend the fiber rolls about 35 feet. And then, of course, the plantings behind to restore a little bit more of the slope to the east of the stairs. The project was staked out. We did visit it this morning, and I tried to give the commission a decent idea, a visual of how the revetment's going to be reworked. So the other part of the project that's solely on the Mordecai property is that in red on the drawing is where the revetment would be extended to within 15 feet of the Prager property line. And the part of the revetment that sticks out right now would be taken off and reworked to soften that curve. I want to point out that we'll have the property line staked out prior to this. We'll have the 15-foot offset staked out prior to this, and that nothing will be within that 15 foot, not even the toe stones. So if you can envision the corner of the revetment as it wraps around and then goes inland, it's going to taper. If you were looking at the slope from the water, the portion that goes along the 15-foot offset will taper from right to left. It'll be low at the 15 foot and then taper up and over to the left. And then as you're standing in front of it, it's also the toe stones that are parallel to the shoreline are going to start at the bottom and taper up and away from you. So I don't know how it's impossible to draw, but I'll try to picture it. So, and then we're going to relocate the drift fence, same meaning, to try to soften the angles and move it over a little bit to work more in unison with the living shoreline. The living shoreline, Seth is here. He's going to describe it in greater detail. It's exactly similar to the one that was approved and closed out over on Lieutenant Island. And the two sites are remarkably similar. Usually we have to say that, well, there's differences here and differences there, but the two sites are remarkably similar.
No.
At any rate, when I say remarkably similar, meaning we have an end of a revetment, we had scouring erosion around the back of the revetment, and the solution will be to soften all of these sharp angles and make a more gentler transition to absorb wave energy and transition it more naturally to the surrounding areas. So I guess with that, so I'm more of the draftsman and a little bit of the designer, but after that, this is Seth's baby. So I'm going to let him take over and present any other information he'd like to present for you.
Seth?
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, members of the commission. You did hear about this project on the Mordecai property previously, so I'll keep my comments brief. But this starts with a living shoreline approach where we have a reinforced marsh, similar to the Meadow Ave West project that Mark mentioned. So that's densely planted with native salt marsh species, halophytic species. And then that transitions into a more traditional fiber roll array, and those are held in place with the earth anchors so that they don't move and don't leave the site. And we plant within the seams of the fiber rolls along the top of the array. And American beachgrass in particular readily colonizes the fiber rolls, as we've seen in many other projects. And the contributing function of coastal banks is preserved with the sediment, which is periodically replaced. I believe that's already conditioned on this permit through the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. I'd note that there was a letter, which I believe you have issued yesterday, I believe it was. And it's the so-called conditional no take, basically saying they don't expect to take as long as it's properly conditioned. The conditions seem typical to these types of habitat projects that I've worked on and reasonable. So again, this is just a project to mimic how Mother Nature typically manages erosion, primarily with plants, with a little helping hand here and there with the bioengineering measures. But again, it's primarily biodegradable dead plant materials working in conjunction with live plant materials is the simplest way to explain it. And we're optimistic it could be a very effective technique right here. I would close by just noting that the living shoreline approaches can be very effective at mitigating end effects of harder structures. So we have a very long rock revetment adjacent, as you know, and as energy, if it's sliding off the revetment, it's then interacting with the marsh grasses in the reinforced marsh and the fiber rolls. That can be an effective method of dissipating any energy that might be reflecting off of that very long rock structure. So I wanted to underscore that. That is noted actually in the coastal zone management manual. I believe it's the Storm Smarts fact sheet number 4 on fiber rolls. If you wanted to look further into that, but they actually featured 1 or 2 of our projects in that regard, showing how soft materials can be used to absorb energy from harder materials.
Will this project change the amount of refurbishment that we need? Because one of the sensitivities here is that the sand that is put there on these sites migrates down the beach to the oyster beds right
Yep.
away, and that it causes problems. Are we going to be able to maintain, or it sounds like these additions will help us stabilize additions, but will it reduce them, do you think, or where are we at on that?
We always propose to have the sediment contribution mimic the natural embankment, so it shouldn't change dramatically. But Mark may want to comment further on that.
Mark?
If I may, I compared the 2 National Heritage letters today side by side, and they're exactly similar, with the exception that for the Mordecai property, the 200 cubic yards per year of beach nourishment is still required. And we've been, if you recall, that's the amount that's been put on the beach since since early 2011 or 12. And then we increased it to 400 yards, well, 300 yards, then 400. We tried an 800 yard, and that was too much. So what National Heritage is saying is that they want to maintain that requirement for the 200 cubic yards. In theory, if the bank isn't eroding and it's stabilized and naturalized, it should require less compensation. So that seems like a fair amount. So that continues for the Mordecai property for the term of the permit. For both projects, National Heritage requires that the fiber rolls maintain about a 4-inch cover over them. So that's part of the permit. So it's not too much. It's the right amount. And so that's the only difference between the National Heritage letters. But
Okay, so you're going to be putting sand over the top of the rolls, and you're planting on that sand, is that right? Which will go down into the rolls?
correct.
Mark, we only have 1 letter from Natural Heritage dated February 15th, and that is to the applicant of Prager. Do you have another letter for Mordecai that we don't have?
Yeah, you guys should have got that. It's dated November 19th.
Oh, so that one's much older.
Okay.
Yeah, we filed Mordecai in November and heard it in November
Go ahead.
and then continued it.
All right, let me.
All right, while you're looking that up, Hillary, Barbara, what do you want?
Yeah, I have some comments and questions, if it's okay for me to
Sure.
like rant.
Absolutely, go ahead. You've got the baton.
Well, first of all, I love the living shoreline approach. It's so much better than revetments, but there are problems with it that we've seen in other locations as well. So I wanted to ask one question, and that is that I don't have the plans here because I'm not there and I didn't get any plans, but is the revetment using no new rocks, just reusing the rocks that are there, or are they adding to the hardscape? That's my one question. So Mark, you might be able to answer that one. And then my comments are that I'm at that site all the time because there's a terrapin nesting area and used to be a piping plover nesting area. The piping plovers have been gone for about 5 years now. Haven't seen a single one because it's all eroded. But when they renourished with that 100 cubic feet of sand, that one-time renourishment, the turtles started nesting there because the sand all went, covered the salt marsh there, and the turtles started nesting there. So that was an unexpected kind of a boon for the turtles with that renourishment. I also want to make a comment that it's not similar to the Lieutenant Island project because they don't have any shellfish aquaculture off that Lieutenant Island site. So that's a This is a different site, and a lot of the shell fishermen who have grants on the Hilda property are really concerned, and I think as well as the shellfish constable, Nancy, about what renourishment does. I think we need renourishment. I think we don't just hold off because the shellfishermen are concerned, but I think it's another piece of the puzzle that we have to figure out how much, when we do it, and those kind of things. So I'd like to see the piping plovers come back, but I don't think that's going to be in our near future. So those are my comments and questions for now. So the question I want answered is that, are there more rocks put into this project than were previously there? Are they just being repositioned, Mark?
Both. I haven't done a volume calculation, but if I just look at the seagull's view on the plan, the area that we're reworking is smaller than the area that we're extending. It's a 10-foot extension. That's it. So I'm guessing there's going to be some additional stone, but I don't see a whole lot. And
Does that answer your question, Barbara? I think Barbara had to step off. John, go ahead.
I'm not at all excited about additional rocks. I thought they were going to be using existing rocks when you moved it around the corner.
Mhm.
I don't like the idea of bringing in new rocks. I would like you to rethink how you do this so that we don't have to have more rocks put in, because I think that's a solution that's tomorrow's problem.
Well, the reason for adding extending the revetment within 15 feet is twofold. It's what your regulations allow, but because the top of the erosion right now is within, it's well within 40 feet of the house. It's very close to a deck that's up there. The erosion has just moved all the way up to the top of the hill. And the applicants are really, really nervous that this house that's been there forever, if they want to protect as much of it as they can, they're abiding by the regulations. So that's the reason for the extension. It's the minimal amount. It won't ever get any bigger than this.
Did that answer your question, Barbara? I guess she stepped away.
I just want to, the house wasn't there forever. It's a post 1978 house, so.
The Mordecai house isn't. The Prager house is post 78, correct?
Right.
But the reason for the revetment extension on the Mordecai property is to protect the Mordecai house, which has been there for quite some time. And it's in the narrative. I can look it up, but it's been
Okay, Mike, do you have something you'd like to say?
Yes, actually, two questions. One, the packet that we received that Mark's put together has from Seth Wilkinson work protocols for fiber roll array and reinforced high marsh installation of 374 King Philip Road. Is that because the date is August 17th, 2020, and it sort of ends, it's 2 pages, but it ends in the middle of a sentence. So it doesn't look like it's complete. Is the date incorrect, or is the date correct and this is just part of the report? If you look at the end of page 2, it just says the general.
What? I'm looking it up. For somehow, whether the scanner sucked in 2 pages or something, I'm not certain. There is a 3rd page. I'm going to look it up to see what it says.
And the other question, while you're looking it up, there are 2 phases.
Oh, wait a
You
minute.
indicated this morning that the second phase probably wouldn't go ahead at this time.
Yes, correct. I think the Pragers want to monitor the project and maybe just don't want to take both bites of the apple at the same time.
So are you proposing that we approve both phases or just the first phase, and then they come back to us after we see what happens?
No, we would like you to approve both phases. with the applicant making the decision as to when to implement phase two.
They're aware that they have a 3-year window.
Yes, yes.
Are there any other comments?
I'm looking at the protocol from, and it does end at page 2, and it looks like there's page 3. Let me see if there's another one.
And it's also dated 2020.
Yeah, well, I guess what the board should realize is that it's taken us about 1.5 years to get to this point. So it's been a lot of work and collaboration and coordination to get to this point.
I can imagine.
Seth, can you chime in on what page 3 is supposed to be? 'Cause I only have 2 pages as well.
Yeah, it may have gotten chopped off. I mean, we can certainly get it to the commission. I believe it's about one more sentence. That just notes what the report will include. So it's the site conditions, and generally what the work that occurred, and any work that occurred during that year, and and some imagery.
Okay, another question. You talk several times about the cables holding the anchor to the fiber rolls. Those are aircraft weight cables, or
They're quarter inch steel cables. It's aircraft cables, just sort of the name. It's like a wire rope. It will oxidize over time. All of this will eventually naturally degrade.
I have another question. This is weird because there's a rock revetment way out there, sort of west of their property. Why can't that come down? Because that seems to be creating a lot of these issues. Is that a state revetment, or what the heck is that?
I might be able to answer that. If you look at the historic photos that I sent with the notice of intent,
Right.
I believe that's the location of the shoreline and the angle of the shoreline about 40 years ago. So that was where the revetment used to end. And then from that revetment to where we were standing today used to be, coastal beach and salt marsh and all the same resource areas that exist just 40 years ago. And funny, when you look at the aerials, that angle of the revetment,
Right.
it's the same angle as the shoreline. And that same angle has just marched eastward slowly but surely for 40 years. So
Who built that, Mark? Was that a state or town or?
I have no idea. I was still in college 40 years ago.
I was young too.
is it doing any good at the moment?
I think it's actually could be acting like a wave break, because it's any waves that are hitting that aren't, of course. In fact, if you look at it low tide, there's a little bit of salt marsh behind that revetment.
Mhm.
So
True.
I don't think it's doing a bad thing. And I do think it's kind of a wave break for that area, providing initial deflection. So I don't see it causing any harm. It's just a leftover.
Yeah. So this is
Well,
what
Mark-
people used to do to protect the shoreline, and it didn't work really in the long term.
Well,
Mark, as you know, Greg Berman was out there this morning looking at it, and he's going to give his professional opinion or view on this. I would prefer to hear from him before we went ahead and approved anything.
Oh, I didn't know he was going to weigh in. I thought he was just there for the entertainment purposes per se.
Yeah, Trojan horse, sorry.
Fun, okay.
No, he would like to put down on paper his thoughts on it.
Because he's also talked to us about the sand drift along Indian Neck as a whole.
Yeah, this is an area where we're balancing the beach, the shell fishermen, and the erosion. And they're not on the same page. They all have their needs, and we're trying to find a balance. And I think that Greg's Well, your plan clearly addresses the erosion and takes every caution to try to protect the beach. The replenishment especially could be the one variable that we can tweak a little bit.
And Mark, when we were out there, I talked to you on the bottom of page 8 of your report. It seems to say, as we discovered, the opposite of what you meant.
Yes, that was a typo on my apologies.
Okay.
So instead of with, it's without. And the important point would be that this would, we hope, reduce the amount of sand that would need to be put as renourishment each year.
Correct. Remember, we've been putting 400 cubic yards a year, and the annual requirement now will drop back to 200. And then a lot of that nourishment is going to go on the fiber rolls. So it would only be, Seth can correct me if I'm wrong, but any nourishment that's above the high marsh would be placed where it needs to be on the fiber rolls. And if there's anything left over, it would just go on the beach in front of the high marsh. So we're talking maintenance downstream of much less sand on the beach. But in the last 4 or 5 years, we've been putting 400 cubic yards on the beach. And we know that seems to be a reasonable balance or a reasonable limit. And we're not going to be anywhere near that, hopefully, from this point forward. I heard from Nicole. So the Nemitzes built the old wall whenever it was built. I know it's in aerials from 40 years ago. And then she said that their house was built in 1965, if that helps anybody.
Where is their house?
Who, the Nemitzes?
Yeah,
I'd assume at the base of that revetment.
because the Nimitzes live near me, which is in a different part of Wellfleet. So I don't know which Nimitz they're talking about.
Different limits or a different house, one of the other. John, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, this is going to be popular, but this has come to us as a joint project between a house that pre-78, which has certain rights and protection or rights to build revetments, and a post-78, which does not have rights for revetment. It doesn't even have the rights for a soft solution. We would like to put in a soft solution for the post-78 house because it's combined with the marsh, attempt to put in a marsh area and the soft solution. But we could say, no, move the house back. We don't want to do that, but we want to have the proposals, because it's 2 proposals, work with us. And working with us, for me, means no new rocks. So if you want to take a hard line on, we have the right to put on more rocks, I'm going to find it very hard to support both proposals. But if you can come up with a way to reduce the addition of rocks, I like the way you're moving forward.
Yeah, let's be, to clarify what John was saying, is that even on the rocks, you have the capability of adding rocks to it, but it's with our approval. We have the ability to deny them if we feel that it's not. So, I mean, that's no threat. I'm just clarifying that we have the power to allow it, but we also have the power to not. Whereas with the post-78, we don't have the power to even allow a rock revetment.
Yep.
So what's the go forward plan here?
Well, we were just trying to stay, our proposal was based on your regulations. We were just trying to stay within the regulation. That was all.
No, that's-
Appreciate that. Yes, appreciate that.
yeah.
Oh, what?
Appreciate that. Yes,
Yeah.
we appreciate that.
Can I ask a few questions?
Sure, Hillary, go ahead.
I'm wondering, and maybe this question goes to Seth, would his marsh system survive better if the living shoreline went in place of where you're proposing the new rocks and then the fiber rolls, and we somehow softened the turn there because there is a great deal of erosion there. And I wonder if there's a better way to sort of soften the curve there without the rocks.
And also, you're doing a good job of trying to ameliorate the tidal issues, but what about the wind? I mean, the wind comes up, it's right, if it's a southwest wind, or it wouldn't it hit that cliff and or the I mean, wind is still going to be an issue as far as sand coming off the cliff, is that right?
We've had, this is Seth, we've had good luck stabilizing these banks in very exposed areas. I would agree, there's a lot of wind. We use a 100% biodegradable short-term erosion control blanket, which is specified on the slope, and that essentially puts a short-term cover over that sand to keep it from blowing away while the grasses and forbs are establishing, and that can be really helpful. We haven't had any issues with wind erosion when we've used that.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to find out.
Yeah.
If you're doing something for that.
Yeah. With regard to Hillary's question, I'd probably have to work with Mark. The profile of the marsh is limited to sort of the tolerances of where salt marshes grow. So it could help with the bottom 3 feet. And then I'm not sure if that's enough to sort of provide the offset that the commission's looking for, but I could certainly put my head together with Mark and we could try to figure that out.
And I guess I'd be thinking, could you then put the fiber rolls up above that and sort of eliminate that rock extension piece altogether? Soften the turn that's there and then go with the salt marsh at the bottom 3 feet and then the fiber rolls. Because I'm sort of worried about the erosion at the end of the rocks and how that's gonna cause more erosion or sand loss on the fiber rolls, and then require the need to have you out there more often providing maintenance to that whole area and adding more sand. So I just wonder if there's another option.
Well, so as an ocean engineer and am schooled in coastal processes and sediment transport and things like that, one of the benefits of this design is that it's up against the revetment. So the living shoreline is at the base where most of the energy is transmitted or absorbed. And then as you get higher up, then the fiber rolls do the same thing, but they're butted right up against the rocks. So there's no gap that we have to worry about flanking erosion there. The two systems will be mated together so that everything is an even transition.
Barbara, you have something?
Yes, I just want to point out that just a little bit east of this property is a landing that the ownership is not clear. It may be state, it may be homeowners, but a lot of people park there and launch their kayaks and go to the beach there. And if that area gets eroded, that's going to be a big issue for people. So it's just east of where this project is going on.
We parked there today, Barbara, on the site visit and walked out. So I think we've seen that.
Yes, I just want to point it out and put it on the record.
I understand. If the distances are right, and if the erosion of the beach line continues at the rate that it's going, it would be 20 to 40 years away before it gets to that point.
Okay. Maybe.
But there'll be-
So what is the erosion rate out there?
If that parking lot goes, you're going to have a lot bigger problems. And I'm assuming the homeowners between there and the Pragers will want to do something too. But nature is nature. We're just trying to work with it. And
it's not just the homeowners, it's the state. The state has a conservation area at the end of that King Philip Road.
yeah,
And it's a state park, actually. So they're not apprised of this situation at all, but it really affects the state in a way that maybe
Yeah.
they should be notified.
Well, if they're in a butter, they will. And if they're more than 100 feet away, that's
They're in a butter.
property line.
So, yep, they'll be notified. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
I had just a few more questions. Mark, what is the erosion rate out there at this property?
Geez, I don't know. And I don't remember whether I put the CZM transects in there or not. But they were done so long ago now, and with sea level rise, I think they're going to be out to lunch. So I can tell you that, what?
Can you submit that to us for our next hearing, possibly?
Yeah, I can give you the transects that are there from what is it now? Mass Mapper website, right?
It's Mass Mapper, but I guess my larger thought is that if you're going to shift the beach nourishment from the revetment to the fiber rolls, I'm sort of wondering how the 200 cubic yards is sufficient for an extension. So I wanted to see the erosion rate and have you calculate what the beach nourishment would be for the rock revetment, and then an amount to cover the fiber rolls, just so that we can contemplate that.
Thank you, Hillary. That's a good idea.
And
Um,
you have something to say, and so.
And then I was also looking for a more refined renourishment plan for both of the properties, because the Prager's obviously is different than the Mordecai's. So I want to see what you're proposing, amounts, time of year, locations, storm follow-up, just because we do have valuable shellfish resources out in front and farms out there. We want to understand what your proposal is to renourish, how you're going to get out there, and when. So that's all pretty important. And then I was also looking for more detail on the monitoring plan, because storms come and go, and we really want these property owners to be accountable when their fiber rolls loose sand or become dislodged and the vegetation's gone. So I think we just need some more detail on that as well.
Okay, when National Heritage comes up with their annual nourishment amounts, they do their own calculation. So that's where they come up with the 200, but I can do one separately and see what I come up with.
I mean, or query them on how they came up with that amount, because I think we want to be able to see that.
Well, I know from other projects I've had, what they do is they take the length of of whatever you're putting out there, and they take the shoreline erosion rate from CZM, and they also calculate the area and the along the entire slope, not just the vertical height, but the entire slope, the hypotenuse, if you will. And they multiply that out, divide it by, if let's say the erosion rate is half a foot a year, they would take 0.5 of a thickness and then times the area and the length, and that's how they get their erosion, their nourishment amount.
So if you could submit that to us, that would be helpful for us to review.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then Seth, you can handle a little more detail on the monitoring. I know some of it's in your protocol, and you stated that Seth has a matter of practice that they go out after each significant storm event, and they look at the project and tighten up any fiber rolls that need to be done. I think that's in his protocol, in his maintenance protocol already, but he can.
Yes, I think I'm afraid some of the information you're looking for is on that mysterious third page. So we'll make sure you get that. So I apologize.
Ms. Sobolowski.
Yes, sorry. I just wanted to say, just as a follow-up with respect to the nourishment for the fiber rolls themselves, the National Heritage letter for the fiber rolls requires nourishment when 30% or more of the coir is exposed. That's the trigger for the nourishment. It's not an annual nourishment requirement. It's triggered by the condition of the rolls themselves.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to accommodate the shellfishermen and the turtles which
And
is
and the
emergency
piping
use,
plovers, and the piping
and
plovers.
piping
So
plovers, right?
so if that happens when there's this nesting, that's not gonna work out.
No,
So,
of course. Again, the National Heritage Letter prohibits anything from, there can be no work on the site from, what's the condition?
April 15th through October 15th, all work is prohibited.
Correct. So
sounds good. Oh, I don't have any disagreements.
So National Heritage, I worked with Amy quite a bit to get this, and she really did her homework. So she's written a permit that allows maintenance of nourishment. The only annual nourishment requirement is the 200 cubic yards for the Mordecai property. And we've been doing more than that, and the shell fishermen have been fine with that. So we should end up doing less than what we're doing now, which is a good thing. National Heritage already established a trigger point for the maintenance for the nourishment and the fiber rolls, and that's not a requirement every year, so that's good too. We don't have to just put it out there every year. It only gets put out as it gets taken away, which is a perfect balance for what nature does. But nothing's going to be done during turtle or plover season, according to their permit. So I would just ask that you incorporate all of their conditions in your permit.
And I'm not saying we're opposed to that. I think we want to see more detail on the nourishment plan.
Okay.
So can we, just continuing this for 2 weeks, sound like you can meet that?
It looks like Nancy Chavetta has her hand up. I don't,
Who does?
Nancy.
Nancy, where's Nancy at?
There she
Oh, there's
is.
Hi,
Nancy.
sorry,
Nancy.
I just got in from patrol. I just feel like I need to state for the record, the amount of sand nourishment out there has not been okay with the shell fishermen. There's somebody on this call today who has been impacted by what seems to be sand from beach renourishment on that area of Indian Neck. And certainly a couple of years ago, it was very evident exactly where that sand went. It's not, I know that every effort is made to match the sand grain size, but anecdotally, because that's all I can say, I don't have science to back it up, but I can say what I see on the ground that doesn't exactly match, what happens when it goes and covers people's clam runs. And when clams are under nets, they can't get to the surface. So it can kill them. And then oysters too, if people have bottom crops of oysters, in the winter, they're fine, but if it happens before a warm season when they're already feeding and they get covered, they can't feed. So there's some, Hillary mentioned it, and there are some concerns, but I cannot agree with the statement that the shellfishermen have been fine to date, because we haven't.
Yes.
Well, then I stand corrected. The only time that we heard of a complaint was after we put 800 cubic yards there, and we'll never do that again.
Yep. Okay, so that was 800, but yes, and I remember, and that's the incident that I was talking about a couple of years ago.
Well, hopefully we can monitor this and gauge it so that we find the right balance for the beach, the shell fishermen, and the homeowners.
Yes, thank you for taking us into consideration.
Absolutely. Very high on our list.
So
Okay.
we're going
I'm sorry.
to second, is that the plan?
Yes. Well, it will be once I move that we continue this until both of these, we're going to have to vote on both of them. First, the Prager, I move that we continue that till March 2nd meeting. I'm looking for a second.
Second, Barbara.
Okay. I vote yes. How do you vote, Marty? Yes. And Benjamin?
Yes.
Hey, you're back. John?
Yes.
And Barbara?
Yes.
And Michael?
I already voted.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Barbara.
That's
Okay, so then we'll do the Mordecai. I move that we,
Leon, just real quick, there's a lot of people on here. Do we want to check in and make
Sure,
sure
that's
nobody
a
else
good-
has anything
yes,
to say
I've
before we?
been remiss. Are there any comments on this from the people that are logged into the call? Questions, comments, complaints?
Speak now or hold your peace.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, did you officially open the Mordecai hearing, or did we sort of assume that?
I'm going to do on the Mordecai is just,
Open
going
and
to
close.
I'm going to move that we continue this until the 2nd of March as well, since there are
Yeah, and it looks like Curtis has his hand up.
Curtis, yes, sir.
Okay,
You're muted, Curtis, if you're talking, so.
okay, Curtis, who are you?
Curtis Graham, shellfish.
All right, I got it. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
All right, how's everybody doing?
Fine,
I'm
thank
just
you.
I'm just a little curious about where the sand is coming from, as far as if it's coming out of a quarry, and just I'm just a little, that doesn't have any food in it. It's a different type of sand that's on the bottom now.
Mhm.
I don't know. Easy Does It has been doing the nourishment there for years and years and years.
Yeah, very familiar with them.
and maybe
So I'm just a little curious about if we could find out where the sand's coming from and make sure that it's suitable for farming.
Mhm.
who checks out the grain size and all that of the sand?
Is
We'd
that
have to
just
look
left
back
to
at their-
Easy Does It?
Someone has to
Original.
do that. Someone has to do that because it can't be different sand.
Well, we can make that a condition, is that whoever, we're gonna have to find what's the way in which the sand is matched up. Is it material? Is it size? Is it,
It's
organic
usually by a
components?
sieve analysis. There's an analysis
Uh-huh.
done of the grain size.
okay,
Who does that?
Who does that? The applicant.
Okay.
applicant?
You can get a sieve analysis of the site, and then various places that you get fill from may have their own sieve data of their borrow site, and then you match it up.
Curtis, had you had concerns about something you'd seen in your grant, or?
Well, yeah, I've had a ton of sand come over and it killed off all my clams. So I don't grow clams anymore. I only do oysters, but I've also had the sand come up so high as the bottom of my racks on that northwest wind, which it is that blows across there.
Mhm.
So I think it has to do, like you said, with the size of the grain of the sand and the shape of the sand, because the wind is really what the factor is. It's more than the tide that I see out there. I can show you pictures. It looks like the tundra blowing snow across, but it's sand.
Mm. Okay, well, there again, we'll make every effort to make sure that we get all the i's dotted as far as.
Absolutely. Great.
But thank you for your input. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for looking out for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Through the chair, can I ask Curtis a question?
Absolutely.
Curtis, this is Mark Burgess.
Yeah.
So we all remember when we put 800 cubic yards out there, and it
Oh,
definitely,
I remember that very well. Yeah.
yes. But we've only been putting 400 cubic yards since, and that's been for probably the last 3 years or so. And
Right. And it has been better. I definitely agree with you there.
is
But
it,
it still does come across. I mean, obviously the sand needs to go somewhere, and that's why everybody's pushing their grant boundaries out, is because it's getting shallower out in that
Yeah.
channel.
That's going to be an ongoing thing, I'm afraid.
And that's going to be an ongoing thing. And the boaters, the fishermen, I mean, everybody, you're going to have to get a dredge out there. I mean, we're kind of,
Okay.
okay,
I just want to comment, this is Barbara, that even if we didn't have the 200 or 400, whatever, sand would be coming out of that dune and covering the grants anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, we're just trying to mimic the natural
Yeah.
process.
If we can get to that point, we'll be doing all right.
So I just wanted to make that comment.
That's a good point. I was going to say that too, is that their erosion is normal. What's not normal is the houses built on top of the cliff. Yes, Nancy?
Okay, and I agree with that, but it's different when it happens by a natural process slowly over time.
Right.
When 400 cubic yards gets put on in one day, that's very different.
Yes.
And so this is what I think, this is the balance that we're trying to find.
Right.
And I know I've spoken with Hillary, and I think you guys have even spoken about it, maybe, and I'm sorry if it costs more, but, maybe we do it in smaller increments over time to more mimic Mother Nature instead of just dumping it all at once. And the other thing that I've been trying to, and, we've been working together on this, try and find tides that are not astronomical. So not big negatives, which would then be big positives, where there would be more scouring action, but do it at tides that are, more around just
Right,
zero. When
right.
possible, obviously. I understand
Right.
there's so many scheduling things to consider, but these are just the ways that we're trying to work to figure out how, as
Right.
Greg said, working with Mother Nature to do the best that we can for all involved.
Right. And I think I asked Greg that at the last meeting, and he said that periodic, breaking it up into periodic pieces versus once in the overall, it doesn't make much difference, he said.
Okay.
And we are in a sensitive area due to the plovers and the turtles too. And I don't know, we can't do anything during that time, which is the whole summer. So all we can do is during the winter, we could try to backfill in with more modest deliveries. Mark, you want to respond to that?
Yes, so the original permit for National Heritage for the Mordecai project required 200 cubic yards per year dumped only by March 3rd. It didn't mention anything about nourishment. And I had asked Amy about that to see if we could do it twice a year instead of once. It wasn't enough. I could go back and ask her. Now, she did a really good job with this letter. So they do sort of leave the door open saying that additional maintenance work can't be done unless we contact them. So we may, under this permit, under the National Heritage permit, be able to say, okay, we'll do 200 yards now. And then in the fall, before, after October, right? Then we would go in there and do it again. I can't guarantee that that's what's going to happen. And I'm certainly not throwing National Heritage under the bus. They've been really, really wonderful in working out the complexities of managing.
Right. Well, and we all know that every location is different as far as the concerns, the restrictions, et cetera. John, you have something to say?
Yeah, I just want to go back to point Nancy made, which I think is a very important point. The sand that's being eroded from the bank has been compacted. It has organic material in it that can act as adhesives. The sand that's being dumped is a whole different kettle of fish. Even if the grain size is the same, it's not the same. And it's not going to behave the same way as sand that's eroding from the bank. And we have to be cognizant of that and not pretend we've got apples and apples when we have apples and oranges. And I think Nancy made that point, and I think we shouldn't forget it.
It's definitely one of the variables that, is the actual stuff that you're putting in there. Is it doing what you want it to do? So did we, let me get back to Chris. Did we finish the vote on that as far?
No, let's go back and do something so we can all go home.
All right, once again, the Mordecai, I will move that we continue that until the March 2nd.
Second, Michael?
I vote yes. How do you vote, Ben?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Is that everybody? Did I get
Marty,
yes.
Oh, sorry, Marty.
That's okay.
Everybody's all mixed up. And you still have your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to ask, or?
No, that was my hand from before.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I'm done. How's everybody else feel? I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second, Michael?
Good. Leon?
Yes.
Yes. Ben, how do you say? What do you say? John?
I said yes.
And Barbara, she wants to go back to the shrimp on the Barbie.
And I say yes.
Okay, and Mike?
Yes.
And Barbara, I guess you're already gone. So we have a quorum. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your input.
Thank you very much.
Let's, we're circling.
everything on our
circling the drain
agenda-
on.
Everything on our agenda tonight was continued to March 2nd.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And if we can work
Meeting,
on
Leon.
the 16th after that, you see.
Leon,
Okay.
good job.
Kicking the can down the road. Pardon me,
Thank
John?
you.
Good job.
Oh, thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.